Hey there, and welcome to another episode of Tree Service Marketing Profits Podcast. I'm your host, Wesley Smith with treeservicedigital.com. And we've got a guest today, business owner, Erich Schneider, founder and CEO of Schneider Tree Care and a tree care business software he's going to introduce today and talk about, as well as the Schneider franchise tree care operation going on here in the Southeast. And so very glad that Erich's here to share his business story. So thanks so much for being here, Erich. Thanks a lot, man.
Great, great. How's my hair? Is it okay?
Looks great. Looks great from this angle. Yeah. Awesome. Well, thanks for joining, man, and providing value today. I know people are going to get a lot of good nuggets out of this, so thanks so much. I think we'll just get started with how did you get started in the tree business and when, and kind of what did that look like when you got started, or what was your previous work history before that?
The one amazing thing about the tree care industry is that you can start from ground zero with very low barrier to entry. I mean, if you got a chainsaw and a pickup truck, you can start a tree company. My journey started when I was in the Air Force some 35 years ago. Did a lot of different things. I was a cop. I got to teach people how to shoot guns and stuff, which was a lot of fun. I got out of the military and started a business selling franchises with a buddy of mine, but it was his business and I wanted a piece, and that didn't work the way I wanted it to. So I stepped away, and I was a stay-at-home dad for almost 2 years. In those 2 years, I went to Bible college, and I was going to figure out maybe, God, what do you want to do with me? And I was preaching in a church and helping out and stuff, and raising my two boys in diapers, and realized that I need to do something else. This diaper changing is the hardest job any man could ever have. You have kids?
True story. Yes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And any man that works and says, "Oh, my wife just stays home with the kids," dude, they got to let them stay home for just 2 weeks and see how they do.
It is a full-time gig, no doubt. Yes.
Yeah. So my brother and I, he was bartending at the time. I said, "Kurt, I need your help." Kurt's he's president of the company today, but I said, "Kurt, I need your help. My buddy needs a tree cut down, and I think we can figure this out." And we did. My dad, when I was a kid, he had a small engine business, so we fixed chainsaws and lawnmowers. So I had been to service schools for steel and Husqvarna, but we were a tree company is way different than cutting firewood, and way different than just running a chainsaw. But we figured out how to do it, and we survived. And then the neighbor wanted something done, and that's how we got started. And in our marketplace, we figured out that if we will just show up and estimate the job, and just show up when we say we're going to show up to do the job, we'll get the job and we'll get the next job. Now, business people want to make it so complex, but it's very, very simple. If you just treat people the way they want to be treated, they're going to want to buy from you. So that was 28 years ago. Today we are our primary office is in Greenville, South Carolina, but we have a branch office in Spartanburg and a branch office in Charlotte, North Carolina. We have some franchise operations out in Asheville, and then down in our Anderson area, so in our region. But we just had the opportunity to grow a little company into something with almost 100 employees. What a great opportunity this industry has provided for us.
That's awesome. Thanks so much for sharing that beginning stages, because I think a lot of people are in that liftoff stage, and they might be watching this today. They might think, well, am I going to make it? Is this going to work? And because you've always, when you start your business, in my experience, starting two businesses, you've got to kind of stick your toe out there, stick your toe in the water first, kind of get started on the side, get that hustle going. Make some people happy, create the buzz a little bit. Like you said, the referrals start coming in, and then you're sort of faced with a decision to make. Whether do I just keep doing this on the side? Do I stop doing it? Or do I kind of go all in and start this business and really make something out of it? And so you were in that point in the beginning, and it sounded like you started getting referrals, and it kind of just is a natural progression, right? You do the right thing, you get referrals, you kind of start seeing the revenue coming in. And it's like, well, I may as well go for it. Why not? Is that kind of where you were at the beginning?
Yeah, that's exactly it. My wife worked full time as a physical therapist, so I could work and reinvest in the company. But yeah, you just take good care of that customer. And there's an old saying that says, all things being equal, people will buy from the people they like. all things being unequal, maybe you're not as good as the next guy, but they will still buy from the person they like. So if you're likable in the marketplace, people are going to want to do business with you. You may not be as fancy as one of the national companies, but if you're out there and people like you and you pay attention to what they want, they're going to want to buy from you. It's not this whole business thing. There's more books written on business and leadership than almost anything else. And the reality of the whole thing is it's real simple. Just treat people right. Just take good care of them.
Yeah, that's a good nugget there. If you do that, kind of the rest will take care of itself, amongst other things. But that's really the main thing there. And then working really hard and making sure every customer is delighted and happy before you leave. Don't burn any bridges as you go. I see people doing that sometimes. And, one bridge burned could lead to 10 jobs that you don't get, or
Right.
bad news spreads a lot faster than good news ever will. So, bad news is kind of like a cancer, kind of like a virus, so you don't want to get any bad news or leave a bad taste in people's mouth. And so it sounds like that's kind of your philosophy too. And so
Yeah,
oh, go ahead.
before the days of digital marketing, they say if you make one customer happy, you gain like 11. If you make one unhappy, you lose like 58 or whatever the number was.
Makes
But
sense.
today, if you make somebody unhappy, you could lose your whole business because the marketing stuff. I mean, you guys that do digital marketing, gosh, you can reach the nation with positive news or negative news. And we don't need no negative. We got to keep things going. I was
No.
having a conversation with a young man at the gym just a few minutes ago, and he's starting a little landscape company. He was a cop. He was a Marine, so he's got some training in life. But he's trying to figure out, how does he get his little business started? How can he scale it for his kids? And I said, listen, I'll be happy to help you with that, because I remember what it was like when it was me climbing the tree every day and my brother was doing the cleanup, and then we hired a second guy, and just how hard it was getting started. But it's not difficult to scale a business today. There's so much information out there, and we built a software to actually accomplish that. Because one of the big things we forget to do, well, number one, we don't know who we work for because we're doing everything by paper. We hope the next job comes in, right? But if we could remember every customer we work for, and we could send them a note saying, "Hey, I'm available. I'd love to do some more work for you." Would they use this again? Well, if they liked us, they will, right? And I took that whole idea and we built it into a software called Mantix and said, okay, these software guys, they want to sell me something because they're software guys. And I looked at it and said, well, what they're selling me is not the way I do business. So we developed something that does business the way we do business and follows a good process. And you can communicate with your client from the very beginning. You can schedule the jobs. You can follow them all the way through. And then when you're done and they're happy, you can hit that little button and say, send the bill. you don't have to go home at night and go through all the paperwork and forget. And you might forget to bill somebody because it was a small job or whatever. Even a small job, if you lose that money, it's money lost. Anyway, so my heart is for our industry. I've been in the industry 28 years. I was on the national board. I was on TCIA board for 6 years. So I got to meet tree guys around the nation, small companies and the monsters. I got to spend time with Jim Ingram and Bob Bartlett with Bartlett and Phil Chambers with Townsend Tree. And oh gosh, you name the big Chris Asplund, got to spend some time talking with him. And, they may not remember you because you're just one of the little guys, but boy, I could glean a lot of information from the big dogs, and having that opportunity in the industry. Like I was telling you, Wesley, you need to go to winter management because it's fun. You'll connect.
I've had the offers. A few people in the TCIA, when we go to the expos, usually invite me or ask me if I'm going to go. And I do need to make it out there. I like warm climates anyway, especially during the wintertime. It's a nice getaway. And
Yeah.
that sounds like, it's a good network and opportunity to talk with other people in the industry. So it sounds right up my alley for sure. So, but that's great.
Yeah.
A couple of things that you mentioned there with the software, we're big proponents of that, because what we see in our digital marketing efforts, having a contact database, a customer relationship manager, like what you're talking about, a business manager, amplifies the results, because what happens is you can build a fence around your customer base essentially. And like you said,
Right.
reach out to them with email marketing, newsletters, incentives on quarterly this, quarterly that. We have a promotion right now for this, or perhaps a storm comes through. You can send a text message to every one of your previous clients. Hi, this is Schneider Tree Care, for example, as one of our previous customers. You're on our priority list. If you have an emergency tree service, we're here. Give us a call. If so, that's a timely message that can go out the day of. Things like that. So when you have your customer base all organized, there's just a lot more opportunities there. We see that too. And so I'm assuming too, for what you do, the larger you get, the more customers you get, you're not going to remember every little thing you did for everybody. So having it plugged in where everybody can see the same thing in your team, organization, just makes a world of difference in being able to grow in the first place, I would assume, right? Like, I don't see how you do it with just paper these days anyway.
Well, it was slow. Today is a lot better. And I remember what it was like to be the guy that talked to the customer, and then the guy that showed up to climb the tree, and the guy that sent them a bill at the end of the job. I remember what it was to be that guy. And it is possible to get beyond that. Another neat little function that this software is going to have is what's called an API. So we could actually connect with your services, right? And they could buy your services and use our software and reach their whole client base. I don't know exactly how all the details of that stuff work, because I'm not a software engineer. We hired software engineers to build this program because we're tree guys. We gave them a way to do it. We said, this is how we want it to work, because this is the way we work. While we figured it out over the last 28 years. But we need you guys to code it in a way that protects everybody's information, and make sure that everything's done exactly right. But to communicate, one of the greatest, probably one of the greatest reasons for my success is not that I'm that smart, and it's not that I'm that motivated. I am pretty motivated. I'm pretty smart. There's a lot of guys out there smarter than me. I just figured out how to get along with people. I figured out how to serve people extraordinarily or fanatically well. In fact, that's one of our core values: fanatical client service. I was telling you, I was at the gym earlier, and I'm listening to the book "How to Win Friends and Influence People" by Dale Carnegie. It's a timeless book, and what you'll learn in a book like that is invaluable to growing a business. But to expand and to grow, and we need to figure out what it is we want. Do we want to have the biggest tree company in the world? Some of us may want that. Some of us may want that. Do we want to just make a great living and enjoy freedom and do trips and enjoy life? That's one of my guys. Actually,
okay, great.
But what do we want with life? And to set those goals and figure it out, and then get there in a way that's fun. That's an opportunity that entrepreneurs have. As independent business owners, we get that option. If you're working for some big organization, you're punching a clock. Well, that might be fun for some people. Not the thing I'm looking for. I want to have some control over where I'm going, and I want to meet guys like you and say, okay, how do we collaborate? How do we make this work so that you win and I win, and we go forward together? That's what's fun, and that's probably the biggest lesson I've learned in the industry. Is there's a lot of people out there, a lot of tree guys that say, hey, I'll help you. I'll give you some advice. What do you need? And I've done it for dozens, and I'll continue, because that's fun. We have an opportunity as an industry to do so much more than most. In plumbing, you were mentioning earlier that you grew up in a plumbing family. Can I share that? I'm sorry.
Yeah, sure.
Okay.
Yeah.
You grew up as a plumber's helper, since your dad was the plumber. And, for him to be a plumber, he's going to have a lot of education. He's going to have a lot of tools. He's got to have a lot of knowledge. He probably had to do, some form of on-the-job training to get some kind of a certification. In our industry, there's very little of that. You've got an ISA certification, which is a great thing. Be a certified arborist. The CTSP, by the way, I was on the task force that invented the CTSP program. There was 8 of us in a room, John Ball and a bunch of us, and we came up with a whole system, the whole program of CTSP. Now it's an international program. That happened to this guy who just started a little tree company 28 years ago. Had the opportunity to be part of building something that has now gone international. That's kind of exciting.
Yeah, that's a really good point, and something I wanted to dig into a little bit too. So I know you guys are big into the tree healthcare, plant healthcare space, and there's a lot of tree service companies out there who start with just traditional tree services, trimming, pruning, removals, land clearing, things like that. and they end up either going down the plant healthcare path where like a bolt-on service, something else they can offer their existing client base, or they just kind of stay in the same lane for the duration. And so what we've seen is a lot of the companies that pivot and do the plant healthcare end up growing exponentially faster because A, they provide more services and a full line of services, because not everybody just wants to, chop everything down or cut everything down. I mean, of course, that's a big part of the business, but a lot of people want to save the trees, but there's a lot of people that are conscious of the trees and the health of, trees and plants and things like that. And so talk a little bit about when that kind of came up with you and your business. When did you kind of decide, like, this is an angle I want to go down, is the plant healthcare space?
Well, I remember fondly a young man that worked with me. He's now a city arborist for a city in North Carolina. He was a graduate from Clemson. And I said, hey, we want to start this tree and shrub care, it's PHC thing. He says, oh, I know something about that, because he'd had some education. And so he helped us, kind of get some systems in place to start caring for trees. A side note, he was a climber also. And at that time in our business, we were very young. We were still spiking trees to prune them. And he said, so are we just gonna, we're gonna just spike the hard ones? Are we gonna just break the rules for the hard trees? And we changed our whole policies. He had an influence in my organization to the point where we're like, okay, if we're going to do the right thing and follow the ANSI standard, then we're no longer going to spike trees to prune them, which was kind of neat. And he helped us, put some systems in place, and then we continue to grow that. It's kind of difficult because our industry really doesn't want to share that information. If you talk to some of the big dogs, they'll tell you how to break trees, how to cut down trees, how to prune trees, but they won't tell you how to sell a good PHC program that's renewable year after year after year. They want that work, so they don't want to give that away. They don't want, that's the secret sauce they don't want to share. But I looked at it and said, okay, I've got guys that maybe they can't climb trees in there. Well, I'll tell you specifically, one gentleman, he's been with me now 22 years. He was a crew leader, he was a climber, he was a bucket operator, and he started getting older. And just the beginning of this year, he came to me and says, Eric, I'm putting in my notice, 2 more years. I said, really, John, at 68 years old, you're going to give me 2 more years. So the cool thing is he can do the PHC at 68 years old and still turn really good numbers. So it was something that was, I looked at it and said, okay, some questions if I'm going to ask, I'm going to start a business. Number one, is it infinitely reproducible? Is it long-term sustainable? And is it profitable? If it meets these three questions, then probably it's something I can get into. And I looked at, you remove a tree, you can do it 1 time. You prune a tree, you can do it about every 3 to 5 years, depending on species, right? But if you fertilize a tree, you can do that 2 or 3 times a year forever. Well, at least until the tree dies, and they're 100-year plant. So let's see if we can get 100 years out of these 100-year plants. Now, we don't just do big trees, we do shrubs as well. But the idea that we can go to that same property year after year after year and serve that client, and then if they have a tree that breaks or whatever, we go clean that up too. But that whole idea of long-term sustainability and providing a service that's beyond what the average, most of us started cutting them down because we knew how to do that, or we could figure that out. And then I took that idea, right, and I've got technicians that run a spray rig. And I thought, well, what about that guy that wants more? How do I help him go forward? Because in my life and in my business life, I know that I can get what I want if I help them get what they want, them meeting my employees. I want to help people go forward, and nobody works for me. We all work together. I say, no, I never would make that statement. They work for me. They work with me. So then we started this idea of a franchise where they can start take the knowledge and experience they got doing shrub and tree care and go to a different market and do just the shrub and tree care. We call it shrub and tree care. The industry calls it PHC.
Mhm.
I call it, excuse me, shrub and tree care, because the client might understand what shrub and tree care is.
Yes.
They probably don't know what PHC is until you explain it to them. And I would rather them in my marketing, and you being a marketing guy, if you push out their PHC, you got to educate them to what that means. But if you push out their tree and shrub care, they might get it. Right?
Absolutely. Yeah. And I imagine too, that line of business is less of a roller coaster ride in your business, month to month, quarter to quarter, year to year. As
Yep.
you know, it's slow season for a lot of the areas of the country right now. So I'm sure that helps kind of plug those gaps with repeat business where you're
Mm-hmm.
going out regardless of the season. And it's less of a roller coaster. You might have contracts in place with larger either municipalities or universities or places like that too, which require even more treatments. And what I've heard too from a lot of business owners that are doing the tree and shrub care, plant healthcare niche is a lot of people say that they're one of the only ones in the area that are a specialist on that. So a
Right.
lot of the tree companies refer all of those types of clients over to this person, which then in turn helps you grow the business even faster because now you're educated on it, you know what you're doing, and people gravitate towards that. Was that kind of your experience with it too?
Absolutely. The franchises that we have out, that's their whole model. They go to all the other tree companies and say, listen, you don't do this service. I will do this service, and I'm not going to cut trees. In fact, I'm going to give you all the cutting. So
Mhm.
it's a wonderful symbiotic relationship. Uh, my shrub and tree care techs, they're a different kind of tree guy, and generally have, when guys try to start PHC or tree and shrub care in their organization, say a tree company's been around for a while, and they have a bunch of climbers, big equipment, chainsaws, man stuff.
Mhm.
The technician, the tree and shrub care technician, is kind of gets looked down on, but it shouldn't be that way. He's the guy that knows more than most. He's the guy that gets out there and can diagnose and treat trees. But because he's alone in that organization, it's kind of a difficult position where all the climbers are hanging out together, talking about the big job they just did. And he's the guy that's out there every day fertilizing and spraying for bugs and disease. And he's the guy that's finding woolly adelgid and we got crepe myrtle bark scale, big problem for us right now. He's finding those things, and he's serving the client in a very different way, in a way that helps them maintain their landscape and maintain what they do. So if you put a guy out there like you're talking about, that guy that he's just going to do shrub and tree care, then he can serve a lot of different companies, with that model, and they're going to win, and he's going to win. And like I was saying, before we started, that if I'm going to do business with somebody, it's got to be win-win, because it's just not fun to get taken advantage of, and for me, it's not fun to take advantage of people. I want to
Yeah.
make sure people are winning around me, because long-term sustainable business is fun because you know who you can trust, right? And you can do that on a local level, and you can do that on a national level. There's some great suppliers that we've been running Moorbark chippers for 28 years. Those guys have been phenomenal to us. Not that Bandit or Vermeer or any of those other guys are any less. They're great companies too. But we found one that we could connect with, and we stuck with them. We're a Husqvarna, what they call an arborist dealer, so we can buy our own chainsaws direct from Husqvarna. What a great relationship that is. I mean, I tell you, Walt Rowe there at Husky and all the other guys have been absolutely phenomenal to work with. We need some, they got a problem. And one thing about as big a company, I don't want to get off too much of a tangent, but as big a company as Husqvarna is, if they have a problem, they'll fess up and fix it. And that's amazing. Where some other companies might just, sweep it under the rug and tell you that didn't happen and find another way. But Husqvarna has been, well, I don't work for them necessarily. I'm not getting a paycheck from them, but I'm very happy with the service we've gotten from them over the years.
Like, yeah, customer service has fallen by the wayside in a lot of industries, so that's refreshing to hear. And if you guys are having any value or getting value out of this video, which I'm sure you are, comment on YouTube if you're watching it. Let us know if you have any questions. We'll answer them after the fact. If you're on the podcast listening to the audio, like and subscribe to our podcast. We got plenty more episodes coming up. That leads us into another one, which is really important, that you had mentioned too. Like, what do you think has been good? Because we hear this a lot of times too from our clients and just in the industry. How do you keep and retain good, talented employees in your organization? Is there some sort of trick that you guys do, or is it just kind of your core values that you were speaking of before? Like you just treat everybody well and make everybody feel like family, and that helps kind of keep everybody there too.
Well, the question is, who is the the CCO of the company, the chief cultural officer of the company, right? Probably it should be the owner or a leader in the organization, but who sets the culture for the organization? I mean, we do things like during the summertime, every the third Thursday of the month, we do a barbecue or we feed the guys. We'll do pizza one night, we'll do tacos, we'll do barbecue, but so throughout the summer, one day a month, we're going to feed everybody. We cook enough food that they can take some home to their families. We tried to do parties on the weekend, like go to a park or something, and the guys didn't want to show up. They wanted their family time. So we figured, hey, let's just do it at the end of a work day. And that has worked out great. So things like that. But the question, I keep going back to this conversation I had earlier today with this young man. He says he doesn't know how to hire people. How do I hire somebody? How do I get the people I need? I said, well, here's the question. Are you a jerk? Are you a good guy to work for? Do you care about your people? Because everybody's asking this question, what's in it for me? Your customers are asking that question. Your employees are asking that question. Your wife is asking that question, or husband. What's in it for me? And that's the nature of who we are. And if you would ask that question of others and say, okay, this is or answer that question. This is what's in it for you. We're gonna provide uniforms. We're gonna provide paid holidays. We're gonna provide a retirement plan. We're gonna provide services, coaching on budgeting. That's a big deal with us. I want my guys to be financially stable. If you're spending more money than you make, you're gonna be in a chaos all the time. So what is the culture you're promoting to your group? I'll tell you, one thing we did that has been instrumental in scaling our growth was really buy into the EOS program, the Entrepreneurial Operating System. Gino Wickman wrote a book called Traction, like a car getting traction. That has been phenomenal. We implemented that. We were fully implemented probably 8 years ago. It took us a few years to get implemented. But that gives you the tools you need. That book, that system gives you the tools you need to grow your business, to take care of your people, to have good core values, mission statement, vision statement. It walks you through the whole process. I would encourage anybody that wants to grow their organization to look into that particular system. I mean, it might not be the best system out there, I don't know, but it's the best one for us because it's the one we use. I tried other things that were complicated. This was simple enough that everybody could buy in. Right.
That's a good
question.
That was a great point. That was perfect. How do you retain and attract good, talented employees? And you answered it. That was fantastic. Treating people the right way, having good core values. What is the leader's demeanor? Like, how do you kind of communicate with everyone? And that rolls down, right? If you got somebody that's super negative and a jerk, as you say, it's like that, who's going to want to work there long term? It's not a good environment that you want to be in every day. So those are all great points.
Yeah, I hear people say, I don't know where to find people. I can't get anybody to work for me. I can't get people to show up. And they're angry about it. I'm like, well, there's your problem.
Yeah.
If you were a nice guy, if you were fun, they'd want to work with you.
Right. Well, so we got into when you started, and then you started getting some momentum, growing the company, and then kind of got into the tree and shrub plant healthcare line of the business. What would you say has been the most impactful marketing strategies that you guys have done over the years? Because some people are kind of at that precipice where, wow, we're doing well, we're getting a lot of referrals, but it is a roller coaster. We need to get more steady, phone ringing more often. What are some of the things you think provided the most value for your company, other than just treating everybody the right way, getting referrals and all of that?
Well, referrals is by far the best way to get business, but it's limited, right? Because you can only reach so many people by telling someone about you. We also did, so we took the next step with that, and we paid a local talent on the radio to talk about our company. It was the most expensive ad I could buy, but it got me the best return. So a guy named Russ Castle, unfortunately he's passed now, but he was a client of ours. We're a little company, and I'm talking to a marketing guru friend of mine, and I said, what do I do? He said, well, targeted marketing is where you need to be. Go after specifically the clients you want. Well, I looked at I wanted a bigger footprint. So I went to the radio and to hire the local talent and say, hey, Schneider Tree, those guys are great. Those guys are amazing. And we built had a jingle built. So I sing it for you, but I'm not that good of a singer.
Like the
But we
old
do it.
Schneider, you had a Schneider song, an actual song for the company. That's cool.
That's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
Schneider Tree Care, you know we're going to be there.
Yeah.
It's a great jingle, and that grabs people's attention. So that worked well for quite some time, but that has waned over the years. Now we have fully embraced digital. I was slow to take it on because everybody, 28 years, so it wasn't around when we started. But I had the Yellow Pages. They want to sell me digital marketing, right? They were all about it. It was a big spend, and I'm like, okay, that's Yellow Pages was always good. We got good business from it, but I spent a lot of money, and they did nothing. They didn't have their systems
started
together.
going downhill about 2005, 10, 12. It was just going. And then if you wanted to get their digital, people would still have to go to yp.com in order to see you there. And if they're not going there, if they're on Google, so the Google was going up, with search volume, and that's basically the old Yellow Pages now. That's the billboard. That's where people go. So yeah.
Yeah, and Google is changing their rules. So guys like you got to keep up. We can say, oh, I'm doing Google. Yeah, you're doing Google, but Google just changed their rules. So now you got to redo everything you did so you stay fresh in front of them. And, I used to think digital guys, I'm like, they don't know much, and I do know better. Until I learned different. Then I found out that, wait a second, they need to keep up with what's going on in the marketplace more than I do, because the outside influences, who's doing what in the big marketplace, right? That's going to affect how my marketing gets out there. So if we were doing great on Google, and then all of a sudden they changed the algorithm or something, and then we fell off, and we had to get back in. So hiring guys like you, and this is a commercial. Tree Service Digital Marketing has done a great job for Schneider Tree Care. We've hired them ourselves.
I appreciate it. Yeah, sounds great. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah, I do voice my ads on the radio, and a piece of that was my voice isn't as good maybe as the national brands, but it shows that there's somebody behind the scenes. There's somebody that owns it. By doing a personal endorsement for your own organization, tells people that you're proud of who you are and that they know there's somebody behind this thing. It's not just some big conglomerate. Right now, with what's going on in most industries, they're getting bought up. The HVAC industry, all that heating and air conditioning, they just went through a big buyout. Now it's happening in the tree care industry. It's great for some guys that are ready to get out of business and move on and sell their company to an equity group. And for some of us, I'd kind of like to stay in business for a while. I like what I do, and we're doing well. So why just sell it, but I don't want to go down that rabbit trail.
Yeah. Well, that's good. So the radio thing really helped with like local awareness, branding. The gene probably was pretty catchy. So all that, what we see is when people do kind of a combination of everything, it really all is kind of a synergistic marketing approach. So you get the branding things from radio or perhaps billboards, and then digital is kind of where all the eyeballs are, because people are literally super glued to their phones all day long.
Yeah.
So search volume on mobile has increased every single year since smartphones were kind of rampant, in their 2010s and teens and stuff like that. So that's really ramped up the mobile views. And so if everybody's going to be there, then you might as well be there as well. And what we see is just all of it kind of works together. So it's the email, it's the email marketing, your customer database, it's, social media, retargeting people that see you once or twice, radio, all of these different things. And, some of the direct mail, things like that work really well. If you do it all, every little thing helps. And so it sounds like that's exactly what you've done, because you built a very, very impressive business in your market, in 3 markets. And then you got several other markets and franchise markets. So what you've done is quite a bit more than a lot of people have done. So it's awesome having you on, and, just giving value to the community. People are going to enjoy this, I'm sure. If you guys like the video, go ahead and like and subscribe to our channel again. And then I guess the next thing, just be respectful of your time too. Let's talk about the software a little bit. So you guys kind of created that for your business because you needed it really super custom for what you do.
Yeah.
It's sort of custom for other businesses too, if they're slightly different, doing some of the same similar services.
If they're doing tree work, then it works. I mean, the systems are the systems. You've got to meet your customer. You got to track that. You've got to, one of the things we did is we standardized the sales process, which we could talk to somebody about if they're Yeah, because if you're the only guy selling, then you can do what you get to do whatever you want. But if you want to hire some salespeople, you want to have them in a system so you can see what they're doing. And if you're the only owner of the organization, you want to have a dashboard so you can see what's going on, right? This system allows your crews to clock into a job and clock out of the job, so you know how long they were actually there, and it will tie. It can work with a GPS system, so you know where your crews are. Mantix, we coined the phrase M-A-N-T-X, Mantix. It's mantix.com, because the mantis the praying mantis is the protector of the garden. He's the guy he's the beneficial insect that's eating all the bad insects, right? That's why I came up with the name Mantix. But this system will work for landscape companies as well as tree companies. We're going to also eventually do a whole landscape piece, but we looked at how we do business and what was on the marketplace. We used, I don't want to talk bad about anybody else, but we used several other industry softwares, and we found them cumbersome and complicated and difficult to use. And they'd offer big opportunity with CAD or GPS tracking, all this stuff. They'd offer these things, but they wouldn't do it very well. So we would try to use these systems that they put in their software. Didn't work well. So we thought, we're going to do something that's simple, that the average guy in the field can use. Because if it's not simple, you're not going to get good data from your arborist who's selling, or your crew leader. If he's not going to use it, you're not going to get the information you need. So we built something that works. After 28 years of doing this thing, I thought, I need something. And for Schneider Tree, we saw literally 5 times our profitability. We increased our profitability in our organization by 5 times. Now, as an organization, we grew at 15% last year, actually 16% last year, which was also a big part of having a software that tracked everything and could see where we're at so we could adjust as we're moving forward.
That's awesome. Yeah, intelligent data allows you to make intelligent decisions on your business. So that's that's awesome. Thanks for sharing that. It's incredible, though. So what we can do is we can put a link to the Mantix website, in the show notes on the YouTube video and the podcast description. No problem there. That's awesome. People are probably going to be interested in that, so we'll put that in there. Kind of pivoting a little bit, what's next for Schneider Tree Care? Do you guys have any big markets you're going into next, or more franchisees coming along? I'm sure you do. What's cooking for Schneider?
Actually, our next franchise is going out this spring, down in the Somerville market, down South Carolina. So that'll be our next expansion. Our goals for the year, we set simple goals. Let's just do what we do 15% more. Let's just do 15% more this year. We've got a great relationship with CMC lifts, the spider lifts. All Access is who reps them in the United States. A product built in Italy. I've got 7 of those units. They'll reach 83 feet in the year, and I can go through a 36-inch gate to take care of the trees. So we're going to continue to do the things that we're doing. Taking over the world, I used to think that's what I wanted to do. Now I realize that what I really want to do is I want my team to do extraordinarily well, and I want to have good relationships with other people. I don't intend to be Save a Tree. They are a monster company and getting bigger every day. And that's a great vision and a great opportunity in our industry. And had some personal conversations with Daniel Ben Starberg. He's a good man. It's just not the direction I want to go. I like what I'm doing on a local level or regional level, and we're going to continue to push that and do all we can to help other people go forward. This software gives us opportunity to help other people go forward. The franchise opportunity gives an opportunity for other people to go forward. At what point, I'm 58 years old, right? I don't have as one of my guys said at our quarterly, he says, Erich, I'm really, really pleased that in your advanced years that you would take on a project like Mantix. my advanced years, you son of a.
Right. Yeah, that's awesome.
To answer your question, we're just going to keep growing and doing what we're doing and have fun doing it. If anybody wants to give me a call or reach out at Erich@SchneiderTree.com or at Mantix.com, I'm happy to have a conversation or help. Like for you and I to have some more conversations, Wesley, after this, because I'd like to see how I can better promote what you do, because you've been in the industry long enough. You proved yourself. So let me help you push push what you do out there.
No, I appreciate it. Thanks a lot. Yeah, we're growing as well. I mean, serving over 100 tree service companies across the country. And that's awesome for what you're doing and growing the business. And I know a lot of people are going to get a ton of value out of this today. So thanks so much. And we'll make sure we've got, your Mantix link in the show notes and description. Thanks for offering your
Thanks.
contact information. Hopefully you won't get too many reach outs about that, but I'm sure you help people along the way all the time and people appreciate that kind of thing. So it's always good to hear from people who've been in the industry for a long time. People like to hear, like, if I just put one foot in front of the other every day, I can continue to grow and evolve and get my
Yeah.
business where I want to get it. It's just not an overnight thing. And business is not an overnight thing. So you have to look at it as, time's going to go by anyway. I might as well be doing something useful, valuable, and productive. So can't get rich overnight. You can't build a business overnight. Rome was not built in a day, but you can get there fast enough, and time goes by fast enough anyway, especially once you have kids. It just seems to, every year is about a month, it seems like at this point.
Wait till you have grandkids, my friend.
Yeah, I'm sure. I'm sure that too. Well, any parting words that you have for the audience, or, maybe people are struggling or trying to get their tree service company off the ground, or, anything like that, or maybe the pivot to PHC? Is there any parting words maybe that you'd leave the audience with today?
The best thing we can do is really decide what is it we want out of life and then go forward. But be real with yourself. Find out what it is. Ask yourself the question, what do I really want? And then make a list of those things and go forward with that. We all have different goals and different purposes in life. If you can find your purpose, if you're truly driven by a particular purpose, you can do extraordinarily well and do anything you want this lifetime. Now, I love what we do. I love the fact that we're in the tree care industry. We have opportunities most industries don't have. Let's take full advantage of that. And there's a lot of us out there like me that will help. So there's good companies. New Jersey Crane, I know they're doing an amazing thing with training, and Husqvarna's got training programs, and North America Training Systems Solutions, the Nats guys, those are awesome. There's so many guys out there willing to help. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Get involved in your associations and learn and get all you can get, because life is short. Let's have fun with it.
I think that's very, very valuable insight. So if you need a coach or you need a mentor, find one, because they've been in your shoes and where you want to go. And that's very, very helpful for the long run, just kind of mentality wise too, just knowing that you can kind of bump ideas off of somebody that already knows kind of where you're going. Well, Erich, I appreciate it today, man. This has been awesome. Thanks so much for your time. I know everybody's going to love watching this, listening to it on the podcast. Until the next video, guys, appreciate you listening. Like and subscribe to our YouTube channel and our podcast on your favorite player, on all the major ones. And we'll see you guys on the next video.
Thanks.